So I'm today experimenting with some homemade watercolor paints. And I used a pigment. You can probably see it. I used a pigment from a tie-dye, and then I tie-dye pigments, and I put them in gum Arabic. So I used 2 milliliters of the pigment and 4 of the gum Arabic, and a little bit of glycerin, and a little bit of oxgall to make it flow. And it really flows. It goes on slick. So this is a very different medium. Let's see if we can demonstrate any of that. This is going on very slick. It's like a texture I haven't seen in any watercolor paints. And I suppose there's a reason for it. It's just not made the same. Now it flows well, especially wet on wet, but I'm intentionally not using wet on wet here. Because I've got too much wet already. And it's very it kind of feels like it's an almost the consistency of motor oil, if you can imagine that. But that's what gum Arabic does. It's also quite transparent, and you can start to see that it is flowing, albeit very slowly, because I could use less gum Arabic and it would be less transparent. I'm pretty sure this is probably unlike any watercolor medium. I'm going to try, I used maybe too much oxgall. because it is pretty slippery. Yeah, maybe you can just do without it. I don't know if there's really any need for it. Okay, so let's see. I could re-wet the sky maybe, but sometimes it's better just to leave it alone. So now I'm going to use my own version of burnt sienna. And I'm going to need a big brush for that. So let's see if we have enough there. Oh no! That won't do. Wow. That's dark. Let's lighten that up a bit. That'll probably work now. I don't know if I have enough of it. And I'm putting it on dry. I'm thinking maybe not. Wet everything here. I've got a sunshade on right now, so you probably see some crazy patterns on the painting, and I'm starting to think it might be a bad thing. Well, let's try it. So I'm using my own version of burnt sienna that lightened up a bit. The pigments come in a lot of colors, but I wanted to limit it while I was experimenting with it. This seems to work all right. Yeah, I like it. Dry it a little bit. Let's see, I wonder. I think I want to try continuous continue to do basically dry brush. So let's let's see, I think I want to get those windows really dark. My pigment for blue was not anything I know of. It didn't say it was ultramarine blue. I think they called it aqua marine. And you can see I put it on pretty dry, and you can see brush strokes. Let's see how that works. You wouldn't have to use a rigger to do this. Hello. Okay, that's not too bad. All of these are done with homemade paints, watercolor paints, which basically have some of the ingredients, basic ingredients you'll find in the gum arabic is a very basic base to suspend pigments in any watercolor paint. Little crimson. I'm re-wetting the surface. of the beach. Seems to take it okay, although it is wet and damp, so it's ruffling up, the nap of the paper, and it can have unpredictable appearances, but I think for sand it works. There's a little burnt sienna. See what we can do with actually nothing in this lighthouse is wood except the door, and I think that I want to save the bottom part to last here, so I'm going to do the shadow. The sun is coming from the west, or east rather. It's more like about, see what was it? It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, now we've, almost all of this is like almost white, so, could have put a wash on first, but, I'm just experimenting with this medium. Rather homemade watercolors. I'm wondering, we want to introduce a little interesting color into this. It's, the trim has some color to it, but by and large it's mostly white. Or a slight beige, depending upon the sun. As you probably have noticed, this is my version of en plein air. Put a canopy out near the door of my studio. I actually do work in the studio, but I don't have air conditioning, and today is one of the hottest, actually the last few days have been the hottest on record. England had one of the first times over 100 degrees. Well, I think I I'm gonna go and paint details. I think I am. No, I'm not. I'm gonna start painting washes on the whole thing. I won't know how well these washes are gonna do for me. Housekeeping, and now I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put on a really pale wash. From the generic blue that came with the pigments I ordered. Make sure there's a lot of water in that. Muddy it up with a little burnt sienna. It's still, even having put water on there, it still seems a little bit like motor oil. I'm going to paint on the somewhat shady side, the side that's almost 90 degrees from the direction of the sun. And I'm just going to paint the whole thing all the way down. So it's a definite nice shadow. I'm lifting some of this wash I just applied And I'm actually not using the paper towel. Save a tree, you know. Actually, I think I want to, oh, boy, hate when that happens. And as you can see now, I have also done the cardinal sin of painting wet on damp. I hadn't let this dry. Might be a good time though. I'm going to put a lot more color in here, so I don't want the shadow to overshadow the color. So I'm going to do a little scrub. Well, you can see it's doing a little lifting, which for this paper, I mean, this is Speedball 90 pound. It's just an experimental condition here, but it's a Speedball American made product, which actually they do have a brand for it called Fluid. However, this is actually not their product per se. I modified it by laminating it. You can see it's curling up here on the edges. Well, it is actually laminated to another 140 pound paper. So basically I'm drawing on 280 pound paper, and I just used a wood glue and a brayer, and I put them together, and they suddenly make a cheap paper about this size for I think about 50 cents, and double it up, that's $1, and that's pretty cheap. I would pay $3 for 12, 3 plus. Actually, Winsor Newton, for some reason here in the US through Amazon, suddenly dropped a lot of their prices, and now you can get 12 by 16 Winsor Newton rough for like $2.50 a sheet. In other words, $50 for a 20 sheet 20 sheet block. I bought it in the block. I can't imagine, because usually it's $3.50 or $4 for 12 by 16, and in fact they don't often do it. They usually sell it in imperial dimensions. So now it's about 80 degrees, which for California is hot. My wife just turned on the air conditioning. You know, if you're going to locate an air conditioning unit, don't locate it near your studio on the outside of the house. So, I think I am going to do some of the accents right now, and one of those is going to be very faint shadow area. This is a pretty unique structure. In that it's really almost like it's 8-sided. I'm going to lighten that up by just lifting. And I'm lifting with my chamois. Now you can buy a 4-inch by 6-inch piece of chamois for $12. Or you can buy a 2-foot by 3-foot chamois for the same price. But I actually am using genuine chamois. For all you vegans, it's a no-no. Actually, I'm vegan myself, but you know, it's already there. I guess I'm encouraging the abuse of livestock. I mean, I'm not even using synthetic ox gall. I'm using the real thing by Winsor Newton. So, who knows how many oxes hit the dust. Technically, I think they're just livestock who were slaughtered for other reasons, like food. Oh, how gross. Yeah, but to each his own. I can remember that at one time I was definitely double size me kind of guy, and I'm still paying the price for that. Well, my shadow is wanting. Well, there's a situation where I put a wash over a wash, and that's not a bad thing, but you should really wait for that first wash to dry fully. Okay, I think I'm there with the washer on the shady side. Housekeeping. I brought out 6 brushes. I don't know why I have 2 8s. One is a scrubber 8 and one is a round 8, and a 6 round, and then a 0.3 rigger brush. Then I have a flat number 10, and then I have one of my favorite brushes, a mop brush number 12. I bought a fairly expensive mop brush. An Encoda brush, and it came, I paid $50 for it, way too much, and it came damaged. I just can't believe it. Anyway, so I sent it back and bought 20 lesser brushes. Or actually I could have purchased about 3 of these, which I only need 1. Wait until it wears out. Now, well, let's see. I think I want to paint in Catalina, although it's noon, so the fog's lifted, and of course this is a very clear day. I can use a number 6, or I can use my flat number 10. I think I use the flat number 10. And then I'm going to make that, actually, it's never very visible, Captivate Channel Islands. So, gonna mix up, I don't know, I guess I think that the Channel Islands are almost invisible, but today, the day that I shot this, they were not. So, but nonetheless, I'm going to paint it in like a distant color. For mountains, and of course Catalina, or Catalina Island, is a channel island, And there are quite a few. Huh. How do you like that? On this side it wanted to, the brush had a mind of its own. Well, I don't know why I'm painting in areas where I'm just going to trim it. Yeah, and this one is definitely a trim. I will trim it down to, or use it in a mat for 11 by 17, and it'll be a portrait mode. So there's the Catalina Islands. We're going to do a little mixing on the paper. So here we laid down a wash of, I think it was aquamarine blue. And now I'm using the generic blue. That I got with the pigment set when I made this set of paints. I made a complete set of, well, not very complete. Most people like to have 24 or more. Now, one thing I like about this is that it is Catalina Island is a whole bunch of, it's basically a mountain range emerging from the sea. So, that lifted pretty well. And this is terrible paper. When I use regular watercolor paints, it doesn't lift anything. But I think the fact that I made my own and I put in oxgall, that allows it to spread better, and it slows down its absorption into the paper. So if it slows down the absorption, then if you try to lift it not too long after you put it down, it'll work. I can scrub that out of there. See, I have my wash didn't completely do what I wanted it to do. Well, I'm being too fussy, and so I'm not going to do too much more of that. I do know we have a gray concrete, so let's make a gray. With purple and yellow. I remember in art school we did that a lot. We were told never to use ivory black, ivory lamp. Anyway, lamp black. We were told mix your own, and so we always used cadmium yellow and violet or something like it to make our gray. And the grays made that way are, for the most part, a little bit richer. And the one thing is, I really think it should be more like a wash or dry brush. And I don't know if I can count on the grain in this paper to do that. So let's try it. I'm using a number 6, and it's just a terribly cheap brush. And my better brushes in my studio or at my chair, and I do a lot of filming in my easy chair inside. But there's no plein air about it. In my studio, I feel like I'm kind of outside. But now I'm under the canopy. Oh, it's starting to come together. I don't want to get too carried away. I think over there, kind of a nondescript color. And yeah, and then I think I will do the same kind of mixed up, not much of a gray, is it? But doesn't need to be gray. I think I have made this far too dark. So let's do something like this. Oh no. More like this. Now, the ox gall has slowed this from penetrating deeply, so I should be able to lift that a bit. And this suggests to me that it's the amendments you make to the paint that allow you to do the most error correction, if you will. So let's see, I might do this is one of those diagonal, or the octagon, rather odd octagonal shape of this guard tower. Kind of scrubbing that too much. Should just lay it on and let it fall where it may. I'm not really in the Impressionist school. And actually, watercolorists are, many of them, very impressionist. Just lay down the color quickly. I would if I had a steady hand. But after 62 years of doing watercolors, I started when I was 9. Do the math. I won my first art award when I was, for my watercolors, when I was 9. Kind of a brown shadow I'm casting here, and then there's a kind of a secondary shadow going on. And this whole edge here, it's blue tile. And I think well, I have to say I really I'm no expert at making paints or the latest in art trends, or watercolor trends for that matter. But I rather have my own way of doing things. I like dry on dry. Wet on wet I'm okay with, especially for the mountains and the seas and the skies. Now, this is why you might want to spend more than a nickel for a brush. I've graduated to my 8. Too wet. I almost, God forbid, made a mistake. God forbid. I've been watching too many scary movies with religious overtones. Yep, if anything can be scary, that'd be it. And you got to have your church lady, the one who's going to heaven, and everyone else, it's questionable. So I'm using a number 8 round, and it's a good quality brush. I just showed you by illustration a poor quality brush, which quite literally I paid a nickel for. I think I got 75 of them at Aaron Brothers Art Mart. You would think they'd be selling, well, they've got to appeal to students, so basically a student brush. Now this is really a bright blue, but it's in the shade, so the tile is. It's a similar tile to up here. In fact, I might carry some of that out over here in the shadows. This is a really interesting rose window. The attention to detail on this structure is pretty amazing. But then again, Laguna is an art colony. So that is some pretty interesting architecture on this thing. It is pretty amazing. And now I've just noticed I think I've made a mistake on the color there, and I don't know what I'm gonna do about it. But because it's clearly, well, if you squinted, you might think it was in the shade. There's actually also, this line extends down here, and somehow I didn't get around to doing that one. So I think I'm gonna delineate that now with a nice blue shadow. Again, bluish shadow. But I'm not going to try to be too neat about it. Well, maybe I am being a little neat. There. I like that. But put some more down, put it in. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to try to be too neat. That's I like that. Well, again, I'm being too neat. Too neat. Well, I think I need a little bit more of the blue shadow. Okay. A lot of things we could do here. For instance, these shadows would be much darker. And wet on wet with my homemade paint doesn't seem to ruffle up the nap on my very cheap paper. I think that those windows, though, they gotta be different. And this is wet on dry to some extent. The reason I say that is that the amount of gum arabic in this paint retards the drying, particularly when there's a lot of pigment that's that is just not coming out. No.